As I drove through the winding roads leading to Maplewood, a sense of anticipation bubbled within me. The trees, their branches swaying gently in the evening breeze, seemed to whisper secrets of the quaint little town nestled within. I had taken this babysitting job to save up for my college tuition, but something about the house I was about to enter intrigued me. The family had assured me that their home was safe and welcoming, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that it held stories untold. The Bennett family lived in a grand Victorian house that stood proudly at the end of a long driveway, framed by towering oaks. As I stepped out of my car, the scent of damp earth and blooming flowers filled the air. I took a moment to admire the architecture. Its tall, pointed gables, intricate woodwork, and wide porch that wrapped around the front like an embrace. The house seemed to breathe history. Each creak of it was a reminder of the lives that had passed through its halls. "Clara!" A voice called out, pulling me from my reverie. I turned to see a woman with a warm smile, her hair tied back in a loose bun. "You must be Clara. I'm Mrs. Bennett. Thank you so much for coming on such short notice." "Of course, Mrs. Bennett. Thank you for having me," I replied, returning her smile while glancing around. The house loomed over us, casting long shadows in the fading light. There was an odd tension in the air, a feeling I couldn't quite put my finger on, but I brushed it aside. "Come in. The kids will be so excited to meet you," she said, ushering me through the large front door. The entrance hall was lined with family portraits, their eyes seeming to follow me as I walked past. I felt a chill run down my spine, but I chalked it up to the cool air that crept in from the outside. As I stepped into the house, I was greeted by the sight of two children, their laughter echoing through the high ceilings. Emma and Lucas, the Bennett twins, were playing with a set of colorful blocks scattered across the floor. They looked up at me with wide eyes, their curiosity piqued. "Hi, I'm Clara. I'll be looking after you tonight," I said, kneeling to their level. "I'm Emma," the girl shouted, her pigtails bouncing as she jumped up. "And this is my brother, Lucas." "Hi," Lucas said shyly, his fingers twisting in his shirt. I smiled at him, trying to ease his apprehension. Mrs. Bennett knelt beside them. "Why don't you show Clara your favorite toys while I finish dinner? We'll have a special treat tonight." As the children tugged at my hands, leading me to their playroom, I couldn't help but notice how the walls felt alive, adorned with portraits and trinkets that seemed to tell stories of their own. The playroom was filled with vibrant colors and toys, but there was something unsettling as well. A large, ornate mirror hung on one wall, its frame intricately carved with swirling patterns, and I momentarily caught my reflection twisted in a way that didn't quite seem right. "Do you want to play with us?" Emma asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Sure. What do you want to play?" I replied, pushing aside my discomfort. "Let's build a tower, but we have to be careful. Sometimes the tower falls down, and then it goes boom," Lucas exclaimed, his face lighting up with the mention of boom. I laughed, joining their game, but my mind kept wandering to the house itself. While the children giggled and created imaginative stories around their blocks, I felt as if unseen eyes were watching me, each creak of the floorboards echoing my thoughts. After a while, Mrs. Bennett called us for dinner. The aroma of baked chicken wafted through the air, and I found my stomach rumbling in response. As we gathered around the table, I couldn't shake the eerie feeling that lingered in the corners of the room. The family was lovely, but I sensed an undercurrent of tension in their interactions, as if they were all aware of something hidden just beneath the surface. "Clara, how do you like Maplewood so far?" Mrs. Bennett asked, breaking the silence that had settled over the table. "It's beautiful. I love the old houses," I replied, glancing at the walls adorned with family portraits. "Your home is amazing." "Thank you. It's been in the family for generations," Mr. Bennett said, a hint of pride in his voice. "But it does come with its quirks." "Quirks?" I asked, a playful smile on my lips, hoping to lighten the mood. "Oh, just the usual creaks and groans of an old house," he said, chuckling. But there was a flicker of something in his eyes, a shadow of concern that left me wondering if there was more to the story. After dinner, as the children finished their dessert, I offered to help clear the table. "You two should go wash up for bed," I said, trying to encourage them to follow their parents' instructions. "Do we have to?" Lucas whined, pouting slightly. "Yes, it's important to have a bedtime routine," I replied, trying to sound authoritative but gentle. Emma shrugged and pulled her brother along. "Come on, Luke, let's go." As I cleaned up, I felt a sudden urge to explore the house. The atmosphere was thick with history, and I was drawn to it like a moth to a flame. After putting away the dishes, I quietly made my way through the dimly lit corridors. The walls seemed to whisper secrets as I passed, and I couldn't shake the feeling that they held stories of their own. I found myself standing in front of a door that led to the attic. It was slightly ajar, and a soft, ethereal melody drifted down the stairs, wrapping around me like a warm embrace. My heart raced with curiosity. What was that music? I hesitated, glancing back toward the living room where the children were just finishing up their chatter. I could hear their laughter, a stark contrast to the haunting melody that called to me from above. I felt a strange pull, an irresistible urge to discover the source of that sound. Just a quick look, I whispered to myself, pushing the door open wider. The air grew cooler as I climbed the creaking stairs, each step echoing in the silence. The melody grew louder, its haunting notes resonating in my chest. As I reached the top of the stairs, I found myself in a dimly lit attic filled with dust-covered furniture and cobwebs. The melody seemed to be emanating from a small music box sitting on an old trunk in the center of the room. "Who left you here?" I asked aloud, my voice barely above a whisper. I approached the music box, its intricate design catching the faint light filtering through the small window. Tentatively, I reached out and touched it. The moment my fingers brushed against its surface, the music stopped abruptly, plunging the room into an unsettling silence. A shiver ran down my spine, and I pulled my hand back as if scalded. "What just happened?" I murmured to myself, my heart pounding in my chest. The silence was oppressive, and I suddenly felt very alone in that attic, surrounded by the remnants of the past. Just then, my eyes caught a glimpse of something tucked away behind the music box. It was a leather-bound diary, worn with age. I picked it up, my fingers grazing over the cover. Something compelled me to open it, and as I flipped through the pages, the air around me grew heavy with anticipation. Each page was filled with neat, elegant handwriting that told a story of another caregiver, a name that sent chills down my spine, Eliza. I had stumbled upon something that felt profoundly significant, and a sense of foreboding settled in the pit of my stomach. The melody, the diary, and the house itself seemed to be woven into a tapestry of secrets, waiting for someone to unravel them. I couldn't turn back now. I needed to know more about Eliza and the mysteries that lay hidden in the Bennett home. As the evening deepened, I found myself standing at the foot of the creaking staircase that led to the attic of the Bennett house. The walls were lined with intricate woodwork, the air thick with stories that seemed to whisper from every corner. My heart raced, not just from the thrill of exploration, but also from an inexplicable pull that beckoned me upward. The gentle notes of the melody floated down to me, soft and inviting, wrapping around me like a silken thread. I took a deep breath, steeling my nerves, and began my ascent. Each step groaned under my weight, as if cautioning me against my curiosity. The faint glow of a dim light seeped through the slightly ajar door at the top of the stairs, illuminating the dusty air and casting playful shadows that danced along the walls. I paused, my hand hovering above the doorknob. The melody swelled, a haunting lullaby that seemed to echo secrets of the past. "Clara, what are you doing?" I whispered to myself, half in jest, half in fear. There was a tug of anxiety in my stomach, a feeling that I was stepping into something far beyond my understanding. But I couldn't turn back. Not now. With a gentle push, the door creaked open, revealing a space that was both enchanting and eerie. The attic was a treasure trove of forgotten memories. Old trunks piled high, cobwebs draping from the rafters like curtains of time. And there, in the center of it all, sat an ornate music box, glimmering faintly in the low light. Its surface was intricately carved, depicting swirling vines and delicate flowers. I approached it slowly, almost reverently. The music intensified, wrapping around me like a warm embrace. "What are you hiding?" I murmured as I knelt beside the box, my fingers brushing against its cool surface. It seemed to pulse with a life of its own, inviting me to unlock its secrets. Tentatively, I lifted the lid. The melody that spilled forth was unlike anything I had ever heard. Ethereal, almost otherworldly. It resonated deep within me, stirring emotions I couldn't quite place. As I listened, it felt as if the walls of the attic were breathing with me, the air thickening with memories long buried. Suddenly, the music stopped, leaving an unsettling silence that enveloped me. The abruptness of it sent a shiver down my spine, and I glanced around, half expecting to see someone or something emerging from the shadows. But there was only the quiet, and the chill of the night creeping through the cracks in the old wood. "Okay, maybe that wasn't such a good idea," I said, forcing a laugh to break the tension. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the erratic beating of my heart. It was then that I noticed a leather-bound book nestled among the dust and debris, its spine cracked and weathered by time. Intrigued, I reached for it, gently brushing away the layers of dust that had settled like a shroud. The cover bore no title, but as I opened it, the faint scent of aged paper wafted up, mingling with the musty air. My fingers trembled as I turned the pages, revealing neat, looping handwriting that told a story of its own. This was no ordinary diary. It felt imbued with the weight of the past. "Dear reader," I read aloud, my voice barely above a whisper, "if you are holding this, I fear you may have been drawn into the web of our tragedy." I glanced around the attic, the shadows now feeling heavier, as if the very walls were listening. "My name is Eliza, and I was once the caretaker of the Bennett twins." A chill skated up my spine as I continued to read. Eliza's words painted a vivid picture of her life in this very house. She wrote about her days with Emma and Lucas, the laughter that filled the halls, and the warmth of their family. But as I delved deeper, the tone shifted. "This house," I read, "holds a darkness that seeps into the very foundation. I have heard the whispers of the music that plays from the attic, and I fear it has a power that is beyond my comprehension." My heart raced as I absorbed her words. What had she discovered? What had she felt that had led to her disappearance? "Eliza, what happened to you?" I said softly, the weight of her story pressing upon me. I could feel the air crackle with tension, as if the very house were responding to my query. I turned to the next page, eager to uncover more. She spoke of a forbidden love, a connection that transcended the boundaries of time and family. "I fell for one of the Bennett men," she wrote, her handwriting becoming more frantic. "But our love was doomed from the start, ensnared by the secrets of this house. I fear I am not the first to fall into this trap, and I certainly won't be the last." I swallowed hard, the realization dawning on me that I was now part of this tragic narrative. The music, the diary, it was all interconnected in ways I couldn't yet fathom. A sense of urgency clawed at me, as if Eliza's spirit were imploring me to understand the weight of her words. As I turned to the final pages, a sense of dread settled over me. "If you are reading this," Eliza continued, "know that the music holds the key to our fate. It is both a siren's call and a prison. Beware of its melody, for it may lead you to a fate worse than death." The final words were scrawled in a frantic hand, as if she had rushed to pen them before being consumed by whatever darkness lurked within the walls. I felt the chill of fear wrap around me, and I closed the diary with trembling hands. Suddenly, the air grew cold, and the melody returned, softer this time, as though it were beckoning me back to the music box. I felt a tug at my heart, a longing to return to that haunting tune. But with it came a sense of foreboding, a warning that I couldn't ignore. "Stay away from the music," I whispered to myself, my breath visible in the cool air. But the melody grew more insistent, echoing in my mind. It felt alive, as if it were reaching out to me, pulling at the very threads of my being. I stood, clutching the diary tightly, my heart pounding in my chest. But as I turned to leave, I felt a sudden rush of energy, like a current of electricity running through me. The shadows in the attic seemed to shift, and in that moment, I understood the weight of Eliza's warning. The music was not just a melody. It was a connection to the past, a bridge to the souls that had been trapped within these walls. "Please, let me go," I murmured, half praying, half pleading with the unseen forces that surrounded me. But the music continued, a siren song that promised both beauty and despair. I backed away slowly, the diary clutched against my chest, each step taking me further away from the music box and its haunting melody. The shadows flickered, and for a moment, I swore I saw a fleeting figure, a woman with sorrowful eyes, reaching out to me from the depths of the darkness. My breath caught in my throat as I turned and fled down the stairs, the echo of the music lingering in my ears. As I reached the safety of the main floor, I could still feel the pull of the attic, the weight of Eliza's story pressing down on me. I had stumbled upon a world of secrets, one that would forever change the course of my life. The question now was whether I would find a way to escape its grasp or become yet another echo in the haunting melody of the Bennett house. As I sat on the creaky floor of the attic, the musty smell of aged wood and forgotten memories enveloped me. The dim light cast eerie shadows around the room, and the only sound was the faint echo of the haunting melody that had lured me here. My heart raced as I clutched the diary of Eliza, my fingers trembling over its delicate pages. The words seemed to pulse with life, urging me to uncover the secrets hidden within. "Why did you disappear, Eliza?" I whispered to the empty room, feeling a strange connection to the woman whose life had intertwined with the family Bennett. As I read, the faint flicker of candlelight illuminated the ink, and I could almost hear her voice, soft and melodic, resonating through the attic. The first entry spoke of her arrival at the Bennett household, much like mine. "The house is alive with whispers," she had written, "and the children, Emma and Lucas, are as bright as the stars. But there is a heaviness in the air, a feeling that something unseen watches our every move." I shivered, realizing that she must have felt the same tension I had sensed upon my arrival. I turned the pages, eager to learn more. Each entry painted a vivid picture of her days with the twins, her laughter mingling with theirs, but there was always an underlying current of dread. "The music," she wrote one evening, "plays softly at night, as if calling to me. I fear it hides something dark, a secret that binds us to this house." The realization struck me like a bolt of lightning. The music, it wasn't merely a haunting lullaby. It was a siren's call, a beckoning from the past. I could feel the melody resonating within me, weaving in and out of my thoughts, drawing me deeper into the mystery. "What are you trying to tell me?" I murmured, my voice barely above a whisper. As I continued to read, I stumbled upon a passage that made my heart stop. Eliza wrote about a forbidden love, a connection that transcended the boundaries of time and family. "I fell for Thomas Bennett," she confessed, her words trembling with emotion. "But our love was a secret, hidden beneath layers of family expectations and societal norms. I believed that if we could hold on to our love, we would be free. But the house, it has a way of trapping us." I felt a chill race down my spine. The name Thomas Bennett echoed in my mind, and I couldn't help but wonder if he was still tied to this tragic story. I closed my eyes, picturing a young man with kind eyes and a charming smile, a figure lost to the annals of time. "What happened to you, Thomas?" I pondered aloud, as if the shadows could provide me with answers. "Clara?" The soft voice of one of the twins broke through my reverie, startling me. I turned to see little Emma peeking through the attic door, her wide eyes filled with confusion and worry. We heard the music again. "Are you okay?" I quickly tucked the diary under my arm, not wanting to alarm them further. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just exploring." I offered a warm smile, hoping to reassure her, but the weight of the diary pressed heavily against me, the truth it held too profound to share. "But the music," Lucas chimed in, stepping closer with his sister. "It sounds different tonight. It's like it's calling for someone." I knelt down to their level, trying to keep my voice steady. "Do you ever feel like the house is alive? Like it knows us?" I asked, my heart racing as I gauged their reactions. Emma nodded, her curls bouncing with enthusiasm. Yes, sometimes it feels like the walls are watching us, like they want to protect us but also keep us trapped. Trapped? I echoed, feeling a sense of urgency wash over me. What do you mean? Lucas shrugged, his brow furrowed in thought. Mom says the house has been here for a long time. It has stories, but some stories are sad. They make the house heavy. Their innocent words struck a chord in me. I glanced at the diary, the weight of Eliza's life pressing down on my shoulders. You're right, I said softly. Some stories can be very heavy, but we can also make new stories, happy ones. Emma's eyes sparkled with hope. Can we tell a story together? Clara? One that makes the house feel light again. I smiled at her, a mix of admiration and sadness washing over me. Of course we can. But first, I need to understand the stories that came before us. I glanced back at the diary, feeling the pull of Eliza's words, knowing that I had to delve deeper into the past. As the twins returned to their play, I found myself drawn back to the pages of Eliza's journal. What happened to you? I murmured again, my heart aching with the weight of her unsung sorrows. I flipped the pages, desperation clawing at me as I sought the answer. The next entry was dated just days before her disappearance. The music has become louder, more insistent. I can feel it tugging at my mind, threatening to consume me. I fear I am losing my grip on reality, losing sight of who I am. Thomas and I spoke of running away, of leaving this place behind, but I cannot shake the feeling that the house would not allow it. It holds us captive. I gasped, my breath hitching in my throat. Eliza had felt the same pull I did, the same sense of entrapment. Eliza, don't give in, I whispered, my heart aching for her plight. You have to fight. But as I continued to read, I realized that her fight had turned into surrender. Her final entry was a frantic scrawl, words tumbling over one another in a frenzy. I can hear the voices in the walls now. They are calling my name. I am afraid, but I must find the truth. The music, it knows something. It knows everything. If I cannot break free, I fear I will become one with this house forever. I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes, the weight of Eliza's despair crashing down upon me. I won't let that happen, I vowed softly, clutching the diary to my chest. I'll find you, Eliza. I'll uncover what happened to you. Suddenly, the attic door creaked open wider, and Emma and Lucas returned. A mix of curiosity and concern etched on their faces. Clara, what's wrong? Emma asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. I found something important, you guys. It's about Eliza, the last babysitter before me. She was trapped here just like we are. But I think I can help her. Lucas's eyes widened, and he glanced at Emma. Help her? But how? I stood, brushing the dust from my knees. I need to understand the music, the stories that have been hidden in this house. We must find a way to set things right. Emma nodded, her determination mirroring my own. We can help you, Clara. We want to help. Together, we stood in the dim light of the attic, the shadows of the past looming over us. I clutched the diary tightly, knowing that the weight of Eliza's story was now intertwined with our own. Then let's do this together, I said, a newfound strength blossoming within me. We'll uncover the truth, and we won't let the past dictate our future. As we descended the stairs, the melody echoed through the halls, a reminder of the challenge that lay ahead. Eliza's story would not be forgotten. Together, we would find a way to break the cycle and bring light back into the shadows of Maplewood. The night was thicker than a velvet curtain, wrapping around the old Victorian house like a shroud. I stood in the dimly lit nursery, the peaceful breathing of Emma and Lucas punctuating the heavy silence. They had drifted off to sleep, their tiny bodies nestled beneath colorful quilts, which were a stark contrast to the dark, brooding atmosphere of the house. I had only been working for the Bennett family for a few days, but each night felt like an eternity, and tonight was no different. After I tucked the Gemios in, I retreated to the small living room, hoping to find solace in the flickering light of a candle. I had just settled into a chair with a book when I heard it. The faintest whisper of music, like a distant lullaby woven with threads of sorrow. It drifted through the air, pulling at my heartstrings and making the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. "It's just the house settling," I murmured to myself, trying to shake off the unease that crept into my bones. But the melody persisted, a haunting refrain that seemed to echo through the very walls of the Victorian. I couldn't ignore it. It was as if the house itself was calling to me, urging me to discover its secrets. I set the book aside and ventured toward the staircase leading to the attic. Each step creaked underfoot, a warning I chose to ignore. I felt an inexplicable pull toward the source of the music, a magnetic force drawing me upward into the shadows. As I ascended, the air grew colder, and the scent of dust and old wood filled my lungs. The melody swelled, filling the space with a soft, ethereal glow that bathed the staircase in an otherworldly light. My heart raced, a mix of fear and exhilaration coursing through me. What was up there? Finally, I reached the attic door, which stood slightly ajar. I hesitated for a moment, glancing back at the darkened hallway below, then pushed the door open. The hinges protested with a low groan, and I stepped into the attic, where the music enveloped me like a forgotten embrace. The attic was dimly lit, with slanted ceilings and cobwebs clinging to the corners. Dust motes danced in the pale light that filtered through a small window. My eyes were immediately drawn to an ornate music box sitting on a dusty trunk in the center of the room. It was beautiful, intricately carved with swirling patterns that seemed to come alive under my gaze. The melody was louder here, almost tangible, wrapping around me like a memory. "Where are you coming from?" I whispered, approaching the music box with a mix of curiosity and trepidation. I reached out a hand, fingers trembling as they hovered over the delicate mechanism. But just as my fingertips brushed against the cold surface, the music abruptly stopped, plunging the attic into an oppressive silence that felt almost suffocating. A chill ran down my spine, and I pulled my hand back, feeling as if I had disturbed something sacred. I scanned the dim room, my heart pounding in my chest. That's when I noticed it. A worn leather-bound diary lying half-hidden beneath a pile of old linens. Compelled by a force I couldn't name, I knelt and picked it up, the leather cool and smooth against my palm. As I opened the diary, the pages cracked like a whisper from the past. The ink was faded, but the words were legible. I began to read, my breath hitching in my throat as I absorbed Eliza's thoughts, her fears, and the haunting melody that had seemingly bound her to this house. November 15th, 1892, I read aloud, my voice trembling. I fear for my safety. The music in the attic calls to me, but I sense its darkness. I must uncover the truth of the Bennett family and the fate of the previous caretakers. I cannot become another lost soul. I shivered as I continued to read, learning of Eliza's love for a man who was forbidden to her, a member of the very family she served. Her words painted a picture of a tragic romance that ended in heartbreak and despair, echoing the very melody that had drawn me here. There are whispers in the night, I read, of the mothers who have lost their children, of the bond between them and the music box. It is said that whoever touches it becomes entwined with its song, unable to escape its grasp. I felt a cold sweat break out on my brow as I read the last entry. I fear I may be next. The music grows louder, and I feel it reaching for me. I cannot let it take me. I must find a way to break this curse. Suddenly, the air around me thickened, and the melody began to play again. But this time it was different. It was as if the music was alive, wrapping around me like tendrils of fog, whispering secrets I couldn't comprehend. An overwhelming sense of dread settled in my stomach. "No," I whispered, shaking my head as if to dislodge the music from my mind. "I won't be part of this." But as I tried to rise, a strange force held me in place, and I could feel my consciousness slipping, like grains of sand through my fingers. "Clara," a voice echoed in my mind, not my own, but a desperate plea that felt familiar yet distant. It was like a thread woven through time, pulling me deeper into the melody. I closed my eyes, trying to block out the sound, but the music surged, filling my senses until I was drowning in its sorrow. Images flashed before me: Eliza's face, the boys she cared for, and the darkness that consumed her. I felt a pull, a magnetic force urging me to succumb to the music's call. "Clara, you must resist," the voice cried again, clearer this time. "You cannot let it take you." But my will was fading. I was lost in the melody, surrendering to its haunting beauty. I felt myself being drawn into a vortex of sound and light, as if the music was a portal to another realm, one where Eliza's fate awaited me. David, I thought, a desperate wish for salvation. I envisioned him, the new tenant who would come after me, the musician who might unravel the truth. But just as quickly as the thought came, it was swallowed by the music, and I felt my body lift, floating in a sea of shadows. Suddenly, everything went dark. The last thing I heard was the echo of the melody fading into silence. When I opened my eyes again, I was no longer in the attic. I was enveloped in an eerie stillness, a void that felt both foreign and familiar. The music was gone, replaced by a heavy silence that pressed down on me like a weight. Panic surged through me as I realized I had vanished from the attic, from the world I knew. "David," I called out, my voice trembling in the darkness. "Is anyone there?" But my words fell flat, swallowed by the emptiness that surrounded me. I felt an overwhelming sense of dread as I stood in the void, lost in a world that felt timeless. I was trapped in a liminal space, suspended between the past and the present, with no way to return. "Clara," the voice whispered again, echoing through the darkness. It was softer now, filled with a sadness that resonated deep within me. "You must find a way back. You are not alone." But how could I find my way back when the darkness clung to me like a shroud? I fought against the heaviness in my chest, the feeling of being consumed by the very music that had drawn me in. I had to remember Eliza, her story, and the love that had bound us together across time. "I will not be lost," I vowed, my heart pounding with determination. "I will find my way home." And in that moment, I sensed a flicker of light in the distance, a glimmer of hope that pierced through the shadows. I took a step forward, my heart pounding as I reached for it, determined to break free from the echoes of the past. "David, I need you," I whispered into the darkness, trusting that somehow he would hear my call and come to rescue me from the depths of this sorrowful melody. As I drove through the winding streets of Maplewood, the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden hue over the quaint houses lined with picket fences and blooming gardens. I had always been drawn to places steeped in history, but there was something particularly enchanting about this small town. The air was thick with the scent of pine and the distant sound of children playing, a stark contrast to the city I had left behind. I was seeking inspiration for my music, and I hoped that the whispers of the past would guide my pen. When I finally pulled up to the Bennett residence, my heart raced at the sight of the Victorian mansion. Its gabled roof and intricate woodwork told stories of a bygone era, and I was captivated by its charm. The house stood as a testament to time, its weathered facade hinting at the secrets it held within. I stepped out of my car, my guitar slung across my back, and took a moment to absorb the atmosphere. It felt alive, as if it were watching me, welcoming me with open arms while simultaneously holding its breath, waiting for me to uncover its mysteries. As I approached the front door, it creaked open before I could knock. A warm smile greeted me. "You must be David. Welcome. I'm Mrs. Bennett," she said, her voice a soothing balm to my nerves. She was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and an air of grace that made me feel instantly at ease. "Thank you for having me, Mrs. Bennett. Your home is beautiful," I replied, stepping inside. The interior was just as stunning as the exterior, with high ceilings adorned with ornate moldings and rich wooden floors that seemed to echo with the laughter of children. "Thank you. The house has been in our family for generations. It has its quirks, but we love it," she said, leading me through the hall. I noticed family portraits lining the walls, their eyes following my movements, adding to the eerie yet fascinating ambience. As we reached the living room, I was introduced to the twins, Emma and Lucas. They were around 8 years old, with bright blue eyes that sparkled with mischief. "Are you really a musician?" Emma asked, her voice laced with curiosity. "Yes, I am. I play the guitar and write songs," I replied, smiling at their enthusiasm. "Can you play for us?" Lucas piped up, bouncing on his toes in excitement. "Maybe later," I said, feeling a warm glow at their eagerness. "First, I need to settle in and get to know your house a bit better. Just be careful of the attic," Emma warned, her tone suddenly serious. "It's spooky up there." "Spooky?" I echoed, intrigued. "What do you mean?" "There's a song that comes from the attic at night," Lucas chimed in, his eyes wide. "It's really pretty but kinda creepy." "Creepy?" I laughed lightly, trying to lighten the mood. "I'll keep that in mind. Maybe I'll check it out later." Mrs. Bennet shot a glance at the twins. "It's just an old music box. Nothing to worry about. The kids have vivid imaginations." But as she spoke, I sensed a tension in her voice, a flicker of something unspoken. I made a mental note to explore the attic later. After settling into my room, I couldn't shake off the feeling that there was more to the house than met the eye. That evening, after dinner, the twins went to bed, and the house fell silent. I picked up my guitar, strumming a few chords, but my mind kept drifting back to the attic. The melody the children had described lingered in my thoughts, teasing me with its allure. "All right," I muttered to myself, setting my guitar aside. Just a quick peek. The staircase to the attic was narrow and steep, the wooden steps creaking ominously under my weight. As I climbed, the air grew cooler, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. I reached the top and pushed open the door, which groaned in protest. The attic was dimly lit, with shadows dancing in the corners. Dust motes floated in the air, illuminated by a single, flickering bulb. My heart raced as I stepped inside, drawn by an ethereal melody that seemed to resonate from the far corner of the room. There, on a small table, sat an ornate music box, its intricate carvings glinting in the low light. I approached it cautiously, entranced by the haunting tune that filled the air. As I reached for it, my fingers brushed against the cool surface, and I hesitated. "What's your story?" I whispered, feeling a strange connection to the object. Suddenly, the melody stopped, leaving an unsettling silence in its wake. I jumped back, my heart pounding. "What the hell?" I said aloud, trying to convince myself it was nothing. Then I noticed a leather-bound diary next to the music box. It looked old and worn, the pages yellowed with age. I picked it up, brushing off the dust, and opened it. The handwriting was elegant, and I felt a rush of anticipation as I began to read. The diary belonged to Eliza, a former nanny of the Bennet family. As I read, I felt as though I was transported to another time. Eliza wrote about her love for the children and the joy they brought her, but there was something darker lurking beneath the surface. She mentioned the music box, describing it as a vessel of secrets, a bridge between worlds. "Every time I play the song, I feel a pull," one entry read. "It whispers to me, begging to be heard, but I fear what it may unleash." My heart raced as I continued to read. Eliza spoke of disappearances, other nannies who had come before her, all drawn to the same melody, all vanishing without a trace. "I must be cautious," she wrote. "The music holds power, and I am not sure how much longer I can resist its call." The last entry sent chills down my spine. "I fear I am losing myself to the song. It beckons me like a siren, and I am afraid I will not return." I closed the diary, my mind reeling. The twins' warnings echoed in my ears, and I suddenly felt the weight of the house's history pressing down on me. What had happened to Clara? What had happened to Eliza? "David!" The soft voice pulled me from my thoughts. It was Mrs. Bennet, standing at the top of the stairs, her expression a mix of concern and curiosity. "What are you doing up here?" I was just exploring," I stammered, the diary clutched tightly in my hands. "I found this diary. It belongs to Eliza." Her face paled at the mention of the name. "You shouldn't be reading that," she said, her voice low and urgent. "It's best to leave the past buried. But Mrs. Bennet, it speaks of the music box of the disappearances. There's something dark about this place, I replied, my curiosity piqued. I need to understand what happened. Some things are better left unknown, she said, her eyes darting away, as if she could feel the weight of the house's secrets closing in on us. Please, just forget about it. But how could I forget? The music, the diary. It was all a part of the fabric of this house, and I felt a pull to unravel it. I can't just ignore it. What if there's a way to help? Mrs. Bennet sighed, her shoulders slumping in defeat. You're a musician, David. You must understand the power of music. It can heal, but it can also harm. I do understand, I replied, my resolve strengthening. But I can't turn away from the truth. I need to know what happened to Clara, to Eliza. Just be careful, she warned, her voice barely a whisper. The past has a way of repeating itself. As she turned to leave, I stood frozen in place, the weight of her words heavy in my chest. I had come to Maplewood seeking inspiration, but now I felt as though I had stumbled upon a dark legacy that demanded to be uncovered. I couldn't ignore the call of the melody or the secrets that lingered in the shadows of the Bennet house. With a newfound determination, I descended the stairs, the diary still clasped tightly in my hands. The echoes of the past beckoned me, and I knew that I was on the brink of a discovery that would change everything. The music would guide me, and somehow, I would find a way to piece together the story of Clara, Eliza, and the haunting melody that bound them to this house. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself more and more intrigued by the haunting melody that echoed through the Bennet house. The air was thick with history, and as I sat on the rickety wooden stairs leading up to the attic, I couldn't shake the feeling that the house itself was alive, breathing with the memories of its past. I decided to explore further, and my first destination was the attic, where the whispers of the past seemed to beckon me. One rainy afternoon, while the sound of raindrops drummed against the window panes, I opened the creaky door to the attic once more. Dust motes danced in the thin beams of light filtering through the small window. I felt a chill run down my spine as I stepped inside, the air cooler than the rest of the house. What secrets are you hiding up here? I murmured to myself. As I rummaged through old trunks and boxes, I stumbled upon the faded diary of Eliza, the previous nanny. The leather cover was worn, and the pages were yellowed with age. I could almost hear her voice whispering to me from the past. With trembling hands, I opened it, and the scent of aged paper filled my nostrils, transporting me back in time. December 3rd, 1885, the first entry read, "Today, I was hired by the Bennet family to care for their twins, Emma and Lucas. The house is magnificent but feels heavy with unspoken words. I can hear the music that floats through the halls, an enchanting melody that pulls at my heartstrings. I fear it holds a darkness I cannot yet comprehend." My heart raced as I continued to read. Eliza's words painted a vivid picture of her life in the Bennet household, her joy in caring for the children, and the growing unease she felt with each passing day. I must find out more about this music, I whispered, feeling an inexplicable connection to her. What happened to you, Eliza? Days turned into a blur as I delved deeper into the diary. Each entry provided more context, revealing a tale of love and loss. February 14th, 1886, read another entry. I have fallen in love with Thomas Bennet, the eldest son. Our love is forbidden, but I cannot help myself. The music seems to understand my heart, echoing our secret. But there is a darkness surrounding the family, and I fear it may consume us both. Eliza, what did you do? I cried out softly, my heart aching for her plight. Did your love lead to your demise? I felt a chill sweep through the room as I read her fears of the family's legacy. A history tainted by tragedy that seemed to cling to the walls like a persistent shadow. One evening, as the wind howled outside, I decided to confront the truth. Sitting at the small desk in the attic, I began to piece together the fragments of the story. David, you have to understand, I murmured to myself, imagining him beside me, his brow furrowed in thought. This isn't just about Clara. It's bigger than that. It's about Eliza and the echoes of the past that refuse to fade. I recalled how the twins had spoken of Clara, their voices laced with both fear and longing. They described her disappearance with wide, innocent eyes. "She just vanished," Emma had said, her voice trembling. "One moment she was there, and the next, poof, gone." Lucas nodded vigorously, adding, "And the music kept playing, even when she was gone." Their words haunted me, and I resolved to uncover the truth. I needed to know what had happened to Clara and how it intertwined with Eliza's fate. I began to search for more clues within the house, determined to find a connection between their stories. The next day, I set out to explore the town of Maplewood. I hoped to speak with anyone who might have known the Bennett family, or even the local legends surrounding the house. The streets were quaint, lined with old brick buildings and the scent of fresh bread wafting from the bakery. I approached an elderly woman sitting on a bench, her hands carefully knitting a colorful scarf. "Excuse me, ma'am," I said, mustering my courage. "Do you know anything about the Bennett family? Or perhaps about a nanny named Clara?" Her eyes widened, and she looked at me with a mix of curiosity and caution. "Ah, the Bennetts," she murmured, her voice frail but steady. "That house has seen more than its fair share of sorrow. Many years ago, a young nanny named Clara disappeared without a trace. People say she was taken by the music that haunts the house." I swallowed hard, the weight of her words settling in my stomach. "What do you mean, taken by the music?" The woman sighed, her gaze drifting to the ground. "The music is a lure, dear. It calls to those who are sensitive to it, promising them secrets and solace. But it's a dangerous game. Many have been drawn into its embrace, never to return." "But why?" I pressed, needing to know more. "What happened to the others? The ones who disappeared?" She shook her head, her knitting momentarily forgotten. "It's not just the music. It's the history of that house. There were stories of forbidden love and broken promises. The Bennetts are a proud family, but they harbor dark secrets that cling to their lineage like a curse. You must tread carefully, child." I nodded, my thoughts racing. The pieces were starting to fall into place, but I needed more information. As I walked through Maplewood, I noticed the townspeople's wary glances toward the Bennett house. It was as if the very air around it was charged with an unspeakable tension. The following day, I returned to the house, my heart pounding with anticipation. I made my way to the local library, hoping to uncover some historical records. As I leafed through dusty tomes, I came across an old newspaper article that caught my eye. The headline read, "Tragedy Strikes the Bennett Family. Nanny disappears during mysterious incident." The article detailed an incident from decades ago when a nanny had vanished under strange circumstances. I could feel the weight of the words pressing down on me as I read the accounts of those who had witnessed the events surrounding her disappearance. Witnesses reported hearing the haunting melody echoing through the halls just before she vanished. It stated ominously, "Many believe the music is a curse, tying the souls of those who hear it to the house forever." I gasped, the realization hitting me like a cold wave. "This is more than just a story. It's a cycle," I whispered, the gravity of the situation sinking in. The past was repeating itself, and Clara was caught in its web. As I gathered my thoughts, an idea sparked in my mind. I needed to confront the music, to understand its power and perhaps break the cycle that had ensnared Clara and Eliza. I returned to the Bennett house, my resolve hardening with each step. The attic awaited me, filled with the echoes of the past, and I was determined to face whatever lay within. I climbed the stairs once more, my heart pounding in my chest. The moment I opened the attic door, the familiar chill enveloped me, and the melody began to play softly in the background. I approached the ornate music box, its intricate carvings beckoning me closer. "What do you want from me?" I demanded, my voice steady despite the fear coursing through me. The melody swelled, wrapping around me like a shroud, and I felt the presence of Eliza and Clara pressing in. "You must understand," a voice echoed in my mind. "The music is our bond, our prison. To break it, you must embrace the truth." "Embrace the truth?" I echoed, feeling the tension in the air. "What truth? What must I do?" The music crescendoed, and the shadows of the past danced before me, forming images of Eliza and Clara intertwined. You are our only hope, David. You must find the courage to face the darkness that binds us. With a deep breath, I closed my eyes and listened. The melody shifted, revealing layers of sorrow and love intertwined in a haunting harmony. I will find a way to free you, I vowed, my heart swelling with determination. I won't let you be trapped here any longer. In that moment, I understood the weight of the past. The music wasn't just a melody. It was a call for redemption, a plea to be heard. And as I stood in the attic, surrounded by the ghosts of those who had come before me, I made a promise to break the chains that bound them to this world. The echoes of Eliza and Clara filled the room, and I felt their presence guiding me. The only question that remained was how to confront the darkness that lay ahead. I was ready to dive into the depths of the past, to uncover the secrets that had long been buried, and to rewrite the fate of the Bennett family once and for all. The rain pattered against the old Victorian windows of the Bennett house as I sat at the small kitchen table, the faint light from the lone bulb casting a warm glow over the pages of the diary I had found in the attic. The musty scent of aged paper filled the air as I turned the delicate pages, each word revealing secrets that had long been buried. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had stumbled into a web of darkness that had ensnared not only the Bennett family but the very essence of this house. David, a voice interrupted my thoughts. I looked up to see Emma and Lucas, the now-grown twins, standing in the doorway, their expressions a blend of curiosity and concern. It had been months since I moved in, and though I had become somewhat of a fixture in their lives, the shadows of their past still haunted them. "Hey, you too," I replied, closing the diary and placing it gently on the table. "What are you doing up so late?" Lucas shrugged, his eyes glancing at the diary. "We heard you playing the piano. It sounded different." Emma stepped closer, her brow furrowing. "We wanted to know if you found anything about Clara." My heart sank at the mention of her name. Clara, the mysterious babysitter who had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only whispers and echoes of a haunting melody. I had spent nights lost in thought about her fate, and the more I learned, the more entwined my life became with hers. "I found some things," I said cautiously, not wanting to frighten them. "But it's a lot to take in. You know the stories about her, right?" They nodded, their faces shifting from curiosity to a shadow of sadness. "She was so nice. She played with us and told us stories," Emma whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "But then, she just disappeared." "Yeah, and Grandma always said it was the music," Lucas added, his eyes wide as if he were recounting a ghost story. "She said the house was haunted." I leaned back in my chair, contemplating their words. "Haunted or cursed?" I asked, feeling the weight of the atmosphere around us. "There's a lot of history here, and not all of it is good." Emma looked at me intently. "What do you mean?" While I was reading Clara's diary, I discovered that she wasn't the first babysitter to vanish. There were others before her, and they all seemed to be drawn to the same melody. I paused, searching their faces for understanding. The music, it's like a siren's call, and it pulls you in, but it doesn't let you go. Lucas shivered, crossing his arms. "I don't like this. Can't we just forget about it?" I understood his fear. The house held secrets that were meant to be buried, but I couldn't let it rest. "I can't forget, Lucas. I need to know what happened to Clara and the others. There's something about this place that feels alive, and I think I'm getting closer to understanding it." "Be careful, David," Emma warned, her voice barely above a whisper. "The last person who got too close. They disappeared." I felt a chill run down my spine as I recalled Eliza's diary entries. "I know, but I can't turn back now." As they turned to leave, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The walls of the house felt as though they were breathing, holding their breath in anticipation of my next move. I decided to visit the Old Town Library the next day, hoping to unearth more about the Bennett family history and the tragic fate that befell the women who had come before Clara. The next morning, I woke up early, the sun barely peeking through the clouds. I made my way to Maplewood's library, a quaint building that felt like it had been plucked from another era. The wooden sign hanging above the door read, Maplewood Public Library, and I pushed through the heavy door, greeted by the familiar musty smell of old books. "Good morning, David," the librarian, Mrs. Henderson, called out from behind the desk. Her silver hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her glasses perched precariously on the bridge of her nose. "What brings you here today?" "I'm looking for some history on the Bennett family," I replied, my voice steady despite the weight of my mission, specifically about their past. "And the babysitters," Mrs. Henderson's expression shifted, a flicker of recognition passing through her eyes. "Ah, the Bennetts, a family with a tragic history. You know, it's not the first time I've heard about the disappearances." "Really?" I leaned in closer, eager for any information she could provide. "What do you know?" "Well," she began, her voice lowering as if she were sharing a secret. "The Bennetts were once a prominent family in Maplewood. They had wealth and influence, but also a series of unfortunate events. It's said that many of the women who came to care for the children met a terrible fate." "Do you have any records or documents?" I asked, my heart racing. Mrs. Henderson nodded, reaching beneath her desk to retrieve a worn folder. "You might find this interesting. It contains newspaper clippings and old records. Just be careful. Some of the stories are unsettling." I took the folder from her, feeling the weight of the past seep into my hands. "Thank you, Mrs. Henderson. I'll be sure to handle it with care." I found a quiet corner of the library and began to sift through the contents. The first few clippings detailed the glory days of the Bennett family, celebrations, and gatherings that seemed almost idyllic. However, as I flipped through the pages, the tone shifted dramatically. There were articles about the mysterious disappearances, each more chilling than the last. "Another babysitter gone missing," one headline read, the bold letters screaming at me. "Search parties organized, but no trace found." My heart sank as I read the details. The articles described how Clara's disappearance mirrored those of the other young women who had come before her. They all had similar qualities: a nurturing spirit, a love for children, and an inexplicable connection to the house. I paused at one article that caught my eye. "Bennett family victims of a dark curse?" The article speculated on the possibility that the family was being haunted by the spirits of the women who had vanished, suggesting that their fates were intertwined with the house itself. I couldn't help but wonder if Clara was still trapped here, caught in the same web of sorrow that enveloped Eliza and the others. As I continued to read, I discovered a reference to a local legend that hinted at a curse laid upon the land by the indigenous people who once inhabited it. It was said that the house had been built over sacred ground, a burial site that should have remained undisturbed. "This can't be a coincidence," I muttered to myself, piecing together the fragments of a story that spanned generations. The house's secrets were beginning to unravel, and with each revelation, I felt a growing urgency to confront the past. I gathered the documents and returned to Mrs. Henderson, my mind racing. "Thank you for this," I said, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of thoughts. "I think I'm starting to understand." "Just be careful, David," she cautioned, her eyes glancing nervously toward the door. "Some histories are best left alone." "But I can't just ignore it," I replied, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on me. I owe it to Clara and the others to uncover the truth. As I left the library, the sky was beginning to darken, clouds gathering ominously overhead. I felt a chill run down my spine as I made my way back to the Bennett house, the weight of the past heavy on my shoulders. The more I uncovered, the more I realized that I was not just seeking answers. I was stepping into a story that had been waiting for someone to rewrite its ending. The house loomed before me, a silhouette against the stormy sky. I could almost hear the whispers of the women who had come before, their voices echoing through the halls, urging me to listen. I knew I had to confront the darkness that lay within, to face whatever awaited me in the shadows of the past. The storm raged outside, the wind howling like a wounded animal as I made my way up the creaking staircase to the attic. The air felt thick with anticipation, a palpable energy that made the hair on the back of my neck stand on end. I clutched the banister tightly, my heart racing with every step I took toward the source of that haunting melody that had captivated my thoughts since I moved into this house. As I reached the attic door, I paused for a moment, listening to the storm outside. It was as if the world beyond the walls had fallen silent, all noise drowned out by the song that called to me from within the darkened room. I pushed the door open, the hinges squealing in protest, and stepped inside. The attic was dimly lit, shadows dancing across the walls as flashes of lightning illuminated the space. My eyes were immediately drawn to the ornate music box sitting atop an old trunk, its golden embellishments glinting in the faint light. "Here we go again," I muttered to myself, my voice barely audible over the distant rumble of thunder. I felt an irresistible pull toward the music box, the melody playing softly, beckoning me closer. I approached it cautiously, my fingers trembling as I reached out to lift the lid. "What secrets do you hold?" I whispered, almost afraid to disturb the fragile piece that hung in the air. As I touched the music box, the melody swelled, filling the attic with a rich, haunting sound that wrapped around me like a warm blanket. I closed my eyes, letting the music wash over me, and for a moment, I lost myself in its beauty. But then, as if a switch had been flipped, the melody abruptly cut off, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. "What the?" I gasped, my heart pounding in my chest. I felt a chill creep down my spine, the atmosphere shifting from enchanting to ominous. I glanced around the attic, half expecting to see a figure emerging from the shadows, but it was empty, save for the dust motes swirling in the air. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down. I had come here for answers, and I wouldn't let fear stop me. I turned my attention to the trunk beside the music box, its leather surface cracked and worn with age. With trembling hands, I unlatched the lid and opened it slowly. Inside, I found a jumble of old clothes, toys, and various trinkets. But what caught my eye was a small, leather-bound diary nestled among the forgotten items. Could this be Eliza's? I murmured, recognizing the name from the journal I had found earlier in my explorations of the house. I carefully lifted the diary out of the trunk, brushing off the dust that had settled on its surface. The leather felt cool against my fingertips as I opened it and began to read. The handwriting was elegant, yet there was a frantic energy to it that made my heart race. "I can hear the music again," Eliza had written. "It calls to me, promising answers but delivering only despair. The family is cursed, and I fear I am next." My stomach twisted at the implications of her words. I continued to read, each page revealing more about the tragic fate of the previous nannies and the dark history of the Bennett family. "Eliza, what happened to you?" I whispered, my heart aching for the young woman who had once walked these same floors. The diary told of her forbidden love, her longing for freedom, and the shadows that loomed over her every move. I could feel her pain and desperation echoing through the pages, and I knew I had to find a way to break the cycle that had trapped her, and now me, in this tragic story. Just as I turned to the next page, the melody began to play again, this time louder and more insistent. I felt the vibrations resonate within me, pulling me closer to the music box. The air around me grew heavy with an electric charge, and I could feel the very walls of the attic vibrating with the power of the song. "No, not again," I murmured, trying to resist the pull. But it was as if the music had taken on a life of its own, wrapping around my mind and heart, urging me to submit. I closed my eyes tightly, willing myself to focus, to resist the lure of the melody. "I won't let you take me," I said aloud, my voice shaking. But the music only grew louder, a cacophony of sound that drowned out my thoughts. I felt my body begin to sway, the rhythm of the song syncing with my heartbeat. It was intoxicating, a siren's call that promised solace and understanding. "Eliza, help me," I cried, desperate for guidance as I felt myself slipping away. With a jolt, I dropped the diary and reached for the music box, my fingers brushing against its surface. In that moment, I understood. The music was not just a melody. It was a portal, a connection to the past that had ensnared so many before me. I could see flashes of images, the faces of the lost nannies, their eyes filled with longing and despair. Their whispers filled my ears, echoing the pain of their unfinished stories. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. "I need to know the truth," I declared, my voice steady despite the turmoil raging within me. "I'll face whatever darkness lies ahead." With that resolve, I pressed my palms against the music box and closed my eyes, allowing the melody to envelop me. As the music surged, I felt a rush of energy coursing through me, and suddenly, I was no longer in the attic. I was transported to a different time, a different place. The storm had faded, replaced by the soft glow of candlelight and the sound of laughter echoing through the halls of the Bennett home. I looked down at myself, and to my astonishment, I was dressed in a Victorian gown, the fabric shimmering like the night sky. "Clara," a voice called, and I turned to see Eliza standing before me, her face radiant yet shadowed by an air of sadness. "You've come back. You've felt the music, haven't you? Where are we?" I asked, my voice trembling as I realized the truth. "Is this the past?" Eliza nodded, her expression a mix of hope and despair. "We're trapped in the echoes of our lives, Clara. The music binds us, and it knows our pain." She stepped closer, her eyes searching mine. "You must understand the gravity of our situation. The melody is both a curse and a chance for redemption." "What do you mean?" I pressed, desperate to grasp the significance of her words. "How can we break free?" "The answer lies in the song," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "It holds the key to our stories, our love, and our regrets. But to unlock it, you must confront the truth of your heart." She hesitated, her gaze flickering to the shadows that danced along the walls. "The past is heavy with sorrow, but it can also be a path to healing." Just then, the music began to shift, the notes becoming darker, more twisted. I felt the energy around us change, a palpable tension growing as the shadows thickened. "Eliza, what's happening?" I cried, my heart racing. "It's the darkness that feeds on our pain," she said urgently. "We must face it together, or it will consume us." As the shadows closed in, I reached for Eliza's hand. Together, I echoed, drawing strength from her presence. "We'll confront whatever is trying to keep us trapped." With determination coursing through me, I focused on the music, allowing it to guide me. I could feel the weight of the past pressing down upon us, but I refused to let it crush our spirits. "We are not just victims of this melody," I declared, my voice rising above the cacophony. "We are its masters." The music surged, filling the air with a vibrant energy that pushed back against the encroaching darkness. I felt Eliza's grip tighten around my hand, our connection strengthening as we faced the shadows together. The melody transformed, shifting from despair to a powerful anthem of hope and defiance. "Now, Clara!" Eliza shouted, and I closed my eyes, channeling all my emotions into the song. I could feel the energy building within me, a crescendo of power that surged through the air. "Let the music carry us." With a final burst of energy, I let out a cry that resonated deep within my soul. The shadows recoiled, the darkness shattering like glass as the melody erupted into a brilliant light that enveloped us both. In that moment, I understood that the music was not just a reminder of our pain. It was also a celebration of our resilience, a testament to our ability to rise above the tragedies of the past. As the light enveloped me, I felt a deep sense of peace. I had faced the echoes of my own heart and the burdens of Eliza's past, and together, we had found a way to break the cycle. The music continued to play, a beautiful harmony that would forever connect us to the stories of those who had come before. In the midst of that brilliance, I could see Clara and Eliza intertwined, their fates forever linked. And as the light faded, I realized that while the past would always echo through the halls of their lives, it no longer had the power to hold them captive. Together, we had transformed the melody into a legacy of hope, a song of healing that would resonate for generations to come. As thunder rumbled outside, shaking the very foundation of the old Victorian house, and I stood at the foot of the attic stairs, my heart pounding in tandem with the storm. The air was thick with an electrifying tension, an energy that felt otherworldly. The faint glow from the attic beckoned me forward, a siren call I could hardly resist. I had come this far, piecing together the fragments of a tragic history that intertwined Clara, Eliza, and the Bennett family. Now, I was on the brink of confronting the very entity that held them captive. With each step I took, the old wooden stairs creaked under my weight, echoing the ghosts of the past. I could almost hear their whispers, a cacophony of sorrow and longing that filled the air around me. The attic door loomed ahead, slightly ajar, as if inviting me in. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "This is it, David. You have to do this," I murmured to myself, the sound of my own voice grounding me. Pushing the door open, I was met with a scene that felt both familiar and surreal. The dim light illuminated the dust motes dancing in the air, and there, in the center of it all, stood the ornate music box. It seemed to pulse with an energy of its own, the haunting melody I had come to know so well lingering just beneath the surface. I approached it slowly, my fingers trembling as I reached out to touch its delicate surface. "Clara, Eliza, I'm here for you," I whispered, feeling the weight of their histories pressing down on me. As I opened the lid of the music box, the familiar melody began to play, a sweet yet melancholic tune that resonated deep within my soul. The sound filled the attic, wrapping around me like a shroud. It was beautiful, yet I could feel an underlying pain woven into the notes. Memories flooded my mind. Clara's laughter, her fearful eyes when she realized the truth, Eliza's tragic fate. I could sense their presence, their longing for freedom as the music played on. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The music became more urgent, the notes twisting and turning, as if trying to escape the bounds of the box. I could feel the air grow colder, the shadows in the corners of the attic deepening. "What do you want from me?" I asked aloud, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm here to help." In response, the shadows seemed to swirl around me, coalescing into indistinct shapes. I felt a sudden rush of wind, pulling me closer to the music box. Panic surged through me, but I fought against it. "Please, I need to understand," I shouted, my voice rising above the storm. The shadows began to take form, and I could see them. Figures of women, their faces twisted in anguish. I recognized them from the stories I had heard. They were the lost souls of the past, the babysitters who had vanished without a trace. "Help us," one whispered, her voice echoing like a distant cry. "Free us from this torment." I took a step back, my heart racing. How? How can I help you?" I pleaded, desperation creeping into my tone. "What do you need from me?" The music swelled, the melody now a chorus of sorrow and despair. "Sacrifice," another voice echoed, a haunting whisper that sent chills down my spine. "You must confront the darkness that binds us." "What darkness?" I shouted, feeling the weight of their pain enveloping me. "What do I need to do?" The shadows began to waver, and I felt a pull, a connection forming between us. They were tethered to the music, to the pain of their past, and I realized that I was the key to their release. "You have to let me in," I said, my voice trembling. "Let me understand. I can't help you if you don't show me what happened." The music shifted again, transforming into a discordant melody that resonated with the pain of 1,000 lost dreams. As I closed my eyes, I felt their memories flooding into me, visions of their lives before the darkness consumed them. I saw Eliza, her eyes bright with hope as she cared for the Bennett children, the love she felt for one of the family members, and the heartbreak that followed when their love was deemed forbidden. I saw Clara, vibrant and full of life, drawn into the same fate, her laughter echoing in the halls before it was silenced by the shadows. "No!" I gasped, stepping back as the weight of their sorrow crashed over me. "This can't be how it ends. You deserve to be free." I felt the urgency rising within me, a fire igniting as I realized that the music box was both a prison and a key. It held the essence of their pain, but it could also be the conduit of their release. "Take my pain," I cried out, my voice rising above the swell of the music. "Take my heart. Let me bear it for you." I felt the shadows close in around me, their cold presence pressing against my skin. I'm ready. I'll do whatever it takes. The music reached a fever pitch, the haunting melody echoing through the attic like a wailing ghost. I could feel the energy swirling around me, the weight of their despair pressing down until I could hardly breathe. You must confront the entity, a voice cried out, rising above the chaos. Face it, David. Only then can we be free. With a surge of determination, I opened my eyes, staring into the darkness that loomed before me. You think you can hold them captive? I shouted, my voice steadying. You've taken enough from them. It ends tonight. The shadows recoiled, and I could feel the energy shifting. You think you can break the cycle? The dark voice taunted, echoing throughout the attic. They belong to me. They fed my power. They belong to themselves. I retorted, my heart racing. You may have chained them, but I will not let you take them from me any longer. I'm breaking this curse, and you will not stop me. The shadows writhed and twisted, but I stood my ground, fueled by the determination to free Clara and the other lost souls. I will not be afraid. I will not back down. I shouted, the music box's melody growing louder, drowning out the darkness. You have no power over me. As the melody reached a crescendo, I felt the weight of their pain pressing against me, a tide of anguish and longing that threatened to consume me. Let me be your voice, I cried out, reaching deep within myself for the strength to break the cycle. Let me fight for you. The shadows howled in rage, the music warping into a cacophony of despair. You cannot save them, the entity screamed, its voice a mixture of fury and fear. They are mine. No, I roared, my voice cutting through the chaos. They are not yours. They are free spirits seeking peace, and I will fight for them. I will not let you claim them. With every ounce of strength I had, I focused on the music, on the memories of Clara and Eliza and the love that had once bound them. I could feel their presence mingling with mine, their spirits intertwining as I played the melody that resonated with their essence. This is your song, I shouted, the music swelling in response. Your story, your freedom. As the last notes reverberated through the attic, the shadows began to dissipate, their forms unraveling like smoke in the wind. I could feel Clara's presence drawing nearer, her essence intertwining with mine. Thank you, David, her voice echoed softly, a whisper of gratitude amidst the chaos. And then, with a final surge of energy, the darkness shattered, dissipating into the ether. The attic fell silent, the air clearing as the oppressive weight lifted. I stood alone, the music box still spinning in the silence, its melody fading into the night. Clara, I breathed, my heart racing. Where are you? The remnants of the storm outside began to fade, and I felt a warmth enveloping me, a gentle touch like a caress. I was not alone. I had fought for them, and in that moment, I felt the promise of hope flickering in the darkness. But as the shadows receded, I could feel the lingering presence of the house, the memories of the past echoing in the corners. I knew this was only the beginning. The battle was far from over, and the echoes of the past would continue to call to me. The storm raged outside, the wind howling like a chorus of lost souls. I stood in the dim light of the attic, the ominous shadows flickering against the walls, as the air thickened with an overwhelming sense of dread. My heart pounded in my chest, a drumbeat of determination and fear. I had come to this place seeking answers, but now I realized that the echoes of the past would not let me leave without a fight. Clutching the ornate music box, I felt its weight in my hands, pulsing with an energy that seemed to resonate with the very fabric of the house. I could almost hear the whispers of the spirits trapped within, begging for release. The wind outside screamed, and I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. This is it, I murmured to myself, though my voice barely rose above the storm. As I positioned my fingers over the delicate keys of the music box, I felt a strange connection to it, as if it were an extension of my own soul. The melody that had haunted me since I first heard it began to play in my mind, a haunting, sorrowful tune that spoke of love, loss, and unfulfilled promises. I closed my eyes, letting the music wash over me, and began to play a new melody, one that I had composed from the stories of the lost nannies. Each note felt like a prayer, a plea for forgiveness and release. Suddenly, the air crackled with energy, and I opened my eyes to find myself surrounded by swirling shadows. The figures of the lost nannies materialized before me, their eyes wide with longing and desperation. "Help us," one of them whispered, her voice barely audible over the thunder outside. "We cannot rest until the truth is revealed." I could feel the weight of their sorrow pressing down on me, a heavy blanket of grief that threatened to suffocate me. "I'm here for you," I promised, my voice steady despite the fear clawing at my insides. "I will free you. Just please tell me what I need to do." The shadows shifted, coalescing into a figure I recognized. Clara. Her ethereal form shimmered with a soft light that contrasted sharply with the darkness surrounding us. "David," she said, her voice a melody of hope amidst despair. "You must play the new song. It holds the key to our freedom." "But I don't know if I can," I admitted, doubt creeping into my mind. "What if it's not enough? What if I fail?" Clara stepped closer, her presence warm and comforting. "You must believe in yourself, in the power of your music. Can heal what is broken, and only through it can we break the chains that bind us." I nodded, drawing strength from her words. The shadows around me seemed to pulse in time with my heartbeat, and I took a deep breath, letting the rhythm of the storm guide my fingers. As I began to play, I poured every ounce of emotion into the melody, weaving together the pain of the past with a thread of hope for the future. The music filled the attic, rising and falling like the waves of an ocean. I could see the shadows responding, their forms flickering with each note. "Yes," Clara urged, her voice a guiding light. "Keep going. You're doing it." The other spirits joined in, their voices merging with mine, creating a haunting harmony that reverberated through the house. "Set us free. Set us free," they chanted, their collective anguish transforming into a powerful force that surged around me. In that moment, I understood the truth of their suffering, the love they had lost, the dreams that had been shattered, and the darkness that had ensnared them. Each note I played became a tribute to their lives, an acknowledgement of their pain. I could feel their stories wrapping around me, lifting me higher, and I knew that I was no longer just a spectator. I was a part of their narrative. As the melody crescendoed, I opened my eyes, and the attic transformed around me. The walls melted away, revealing glimpses of the past, the laughter of children, the warmth of a fireplace, the flicker of candlelight. I saw Clara, a vibrant young woman, dancing with joy, her laughter ringing out like a bell. I saw Eliza, her heart full of love, caught in a moment of stolen glances with a handsome man from the Bennett family. I saw the darkness creeping in, the shadows that would claim them both. "David!" Clara's voice broke through the visions, pulling me back to the present. "You're almost there, just a little more." With renewed determination, I poured everything I had into the final notes of the song. The shadows around me surged, intertwining with the melody, and I felt a powerful force building, ready to break free from the confines of the house. The music reached its climax, a swirling tempest of sound and emotion, and in that moment, I knew I had to let go. "Release!" I shouted, my voice ringing out above the chaos. "Release us from this pain." As the final chord reverberated, a blinding light burst forth from the music box, engulfing the attic in its brilliance. I shielded my eyes, feeling the warmth wash over me like a cleansing wave. The shadows began to dissolve, their forms unraveling into the ether, and I could hear their voices rising in one final, harmonious cry of gratitude. "Thank you, thank you," and then silence. The light faded, and I found myself standing alone in the attic, the music box still humming softly in my hands. The air was lighter, the oppressive weight of sorrow lifted. I looked around, heart racing, and then I felt a presence beside me. Clara stood there, her expression radiant, the ethereal glow surrounding her now a gentle warmth. "You did it, David. You freed us." Her voice was filled with a mixture of joy and relief, and I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes. I was so scared, I admitted, my voice trembling. I didn't know if I could do it. I didn't know if I had the strength. You did, she replied, stepping closer. You found the strength within yourself, and that's what made the difference. The music, it carries the weight of our stories, our pain, and our hope. You are a part of that now. I looked into her eyes, and for the first time, I truly saw her. Saw the woman she had been, the pain she had endured, and the love she had lost. Clara, I breathed, understanding dawning within me. You were Eliza. A soft smile graced her lips, and she nodded. Yes, I was, and by freeing me, you've also freed yourself from the shadows of the past. You've become the new guardian of this house, of our story. But what does that mean? I asked, my heart racing at the thought. Will I be trapped here, too? Clara shook her head, her hair shimmering with the light of 1,000 stars. No, David. You have the power to tell our story, to keep the music alive. You will carry our memories with you, but you are not bound to this place. You can go wherever your heart desires. But remember, the music will always call to you. I felt a sense of peace wash over me, the weight of fear lifting as I embraced my new role. I will honor you, and I will share your story, I vowed, my voice steady. I will make sure that no one forgets what happened here. Clara stepped back, her form beginning to shimmer and fade, but her smile remained, a beacon of hope. Thank you, David. You've given me and all of us our freedom. Live your life fully, and let the music guide you. And with that, she was gone, leaving behind a lingering warmth that filled the attic with light. I stood there, the echoes of her words resonating in my heart, and I knew that the house was no longer a prison of sorrow. It was a sanctuary of memories, a place where love and loss intertwined, and where the music would forever echo through the halls of Maplewood. With determination, I took the music box and descended the stairs, ready to embrace the future and share the story of Clara, Eliza, and the other lost souls. The past would forever be a part of me, but it would not define me. I was free, and the melody would be my guide.